Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. We always appreciate it when you join us, whether it's 10 a.m. on Wednesdays live in studio, and you can watch at webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. You get the news first that way. Or maybe you're joining us on Sunday at 99.3 FM. We thank you for joining there as well. Ran into folks in the store last Sunday on the way home from church, and they said, I was just listening to you on air. So thanks. Thanks of those of you who are tuning in. We are here to help you when the headlines hit home. We give you the truth that will help you when the media won't. And we help you live God's word in today's world. That's our mission here. And so we're always glad to have you. We thank our sponsors. I need to do that right away so that I don't forget. We thank Christians for America, christiansforamerica.com. That's Christians reviving American values every day, partnering with us, helping us to get the truth to you, helping you work through all these things. Like we say, when the headlines hit home, what does it mean to you? How does it impact you? We talk about everything from bills at the State House to events and festivals that would just be good for your family to attend, whatever it is, because here's the deal. If God expects you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it in his word. And we're just always thrilled to be able to bring that perspective to you and go through life with you, as so many of us do. So much happening. Last week, my guest was Colonel Ted Spain. He's been a guest on the show before. You recognize the book that he's written called Breaking Iraq, where he just very honestly goes through the 10 mistakes he believes that he made while he was there and that America made, things they could have done better in securing Iraq long term. Not a tell-all, not a finger pointer, just a humble servant talking about his service to America and how we could maybe do it better if we had the chance again and in the future. But we were talking about Veterans Day. And he challenged me, and I'm going to come back to that shortly, but he challenged me. And so today's show is a continuation of that challenge and how God just continues to weave my life. If you followed my life around, it would look like, is it Family Circus? Do you remember that little cartoon where the little boy's headed home from school, but he has like the most circuitous route? I often,
dash line.
Yes, right, all over. Yes. I laugh because if someone were ever trying to trail me, if I ever had someone tracking me, they'd have their work cut out for them. It would just. That's my day. In fact, there's a Bible verse, I looked it up today, about God orders the steps of man. We make our plans, but God orders our steps. And he did very well last Wednesday, and we're going to come back to that. But a couple of things first. This week is the week before Thanksgiving. Some of you are getting your lights up. Some of you are decorating. Some of you have bought the turkey. Oops, honey. Remember, we need to get our turkey yet. Give it time to thaw before the big day. We always try and find the biggest turkey possible. So we better get on that. I think we have to. I think the reason we didn't was we don't have freezer space yet to put the turkey in. We're getting close enough. It'll be time for it to thaw anyway. We'll be okay. But you're getting busy for that. Before we head into the holidays, before we get to Thanksgiving and the day of feasting, Concerned Women for America, for the last 8 years, has asked its members to fast tomorrow. Before we feast that Thursday, the week before, one day, what if you fasted? I've asked my kids that. What if Thanksgiving feast were actually misspelled in the history books? It was Thanksgiving fast. Would we be so thankful if we didn't eat all day long, if we didn't have all those goodies? Would we still be thankful? I would hope so. We have so much to be thankful for in this country. So tomorrow, for those of you who are watching and listening on Wednesday, we ask you to join us, giving up whatever it is you give up, whether it's TV, whether it's food, whether it's chocolate. Let's really be serious and maybe give up the chocolate or the pop. Or maybe it's all three meals. And you take time out and you pray. We call it a National Day of Fasting, Repentance, and Prayer, just like many of our presidents have done in the past. And we ask for one personal reflection. It's after elections that have taken place in communities, so the partisan prayers are over, and time for prayers of repentance, personal healing, bringing our nation back together. And of course, with all the things happening across the globe today, I can't think of a better time for us to be praying for our nation, praying for our communities, praying for our families. We all want peace across the globe. But if you can't have peace across the table next Thursday in your own family, that's where it starts. And so I just think this is a great day. We've done it for 8 years. It was started by one of our little prayer chapter leaders in Indianola, Iowa, a grandma, probably a great-grandma herself. And we just ask you to take time out, get your heart right before we go into the season of greediness. Let's be grateful. And let's be thankful for everything we have. So if you're listening on Sunday in 99.3 on the Truth Network, we thank you for joining us. It's not too late. You may have missed the National Day of Fasting, Repentance, and Prayer, which we do have people from across the globe joining us, but you can still take time out. Time with the Lord, a little prayer, a little quiet time, and just write down those many blessings we have to be thankful for here in America. The Bible says if we wrote our blessings down, we would not have the possibility of writing them all, and that is true. So I hope you'll join me in that. I have one announcement I need to make. Rubio is going to be here Tuesday, and we don't promote any candidate on this show, but he's wanting to meet with pastors and wives. So if you're a leader in the evangelical community, if you're a pastor and you'd like to attend, it is 6:30 to 8:30 at the Airport Holiday Inn, and here's where you call for your reservation. It is complimentary, by the way. It is a dinner out with your spouse before we rush into those busy holidays. The phone number to respond is 800-921-1928. 800-921-1928. That is November 24th. I believe that's Tuesday, right? November 24th. And so 800-921-1928. And I'll try and get that information on our Facebook page, Truth for Our Time. And I'll also try to get the link on our web page. Thanks to Ryan, our producer, for getting that web page. But I sometimes don't get that information up there, but I will try and get that for you. Okay, so I'm going to come back. Last week, Ted Spain was our guest, and I love his heart. Love his heart. You heard him emotionally reaching out to the veterans and thanking them for their service and talking about those who served under his care. And then he said, I would invite you to walk through the VA hospital in your area. Now, I've known we've got a beautiful facility here in the Des Moines area for years. I've driven by it. I've seen it. But it's rather huge, and it's rather intimidating with those huge columns and those big, impressive steps. I've never been in it. Of all the things we've done, the Concerned Women for America group has done a veterans event several years honoring our World War II, our Korean, our Vietnam vets, and our Iraqi freedom vets, Desert Storm vets. But I had not been to the VA, and it challenged me. He was right. I needed to go. But how did I even get there? Who did I call? So later that day, as I went to a couple meetings and I ran some errands, I ran into a Walmart store of all things, and there was a man with a hat that said Afghanistan. And he was this nice-looking young man, Eric, if you're listening, and I thanked him for his service. And somehow in the conversation, we started talking about the VA hospital. And he had very positive comments about the VA hospital here, which I thought was wonderful in the timing we're in with all of the things we've heard about the VA across the nation. And I get it. There are probably things that need fixed. But he had very positive things to say. Not knowing this gentleman at all, I asked him if he would meet me at the VA hospital. And it just shows you the heart of our surgeons, our soldiers. Because he said yes. I didn't know this man from Adam. He said yes. Of course, my daughter, Mom, are you going to pack? And of course, I did not, and I was thrilled I did not, because you have that sign on the door about the pack, but not packing our weapons. But I met him there that day. What a kind, gentle heart this man had. We're walking through the VA. We hadn't gotten there very long. We'd gone through the beautiful entryway with the baby grand piano and, of course, a gift shop, which, a service to me. And we walked down the hall, and I meet this bright-eyed, beautiful young lady, and she asks if we need help. And she joined us for the rest of the tour. God ordered my steps. There's just no convincing me any other. God ordered our steps that day for me to run into this veteran/victim who I then asked to take me to the VA hospital, and then to run into Christy. And Christy, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves to our guest. Christy just very politely asked if we needed help. When we told her what we were doing, she joined us for the tour. Christy, tell our listeners, who are you? What do you do at the VA?
My name's Christy Katrenich, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer for VA Central Iowa Healthcare System, and I'm based out of Des Moines on the main campus where I gave you that tour. We didn't actually head over to the administrative building, but we kind of focused more on our patient care side of the house. And although I'm based out of Des Moines, we also have 5 community-based outpatient clinics across central Iowa as well that we also serve. But my role is just to, with public affairs, that kind of gives you a note of what I do. We do a lot of events and promoting what we do, and also getting out there and really talking with our veteran serving network, whether it be the Iowa state side of the house or our congressional partners or our other federal partners like the regional office. It really takes a team to serve these veterans. And so that's part of our mission, is to really ensure that we're cross-talking and getting that MyVA mission and message out to everyone. And so for me, I do part of that is tours and going to events and talking and working here with our other guest, Bart Quick, who takes care of all of our volunteers and our outreach. And that's just one side of the house for us, because, as you can tell when you come into a hospital, most of it's medical care. And that's where everyone's focus is taking care of our veterans and caretakers and guests that come in, because they need to get their critical medical care needs met. But there's, a whole other side of the house, and that's kind of where Bart and I fall in.
And so, Bart, will you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Yes. Name is Bart Quick, and I'm the Chief of Voluntary Service and Community Outreach Coordinator. I've been at the VA for 26 years. And started on the clinical side of the house. I was the coordinator of the outpatient substance abuse and treatment program. And then kind of, as you were talking about God's steps and guiding, moved along and went into administration for a short period of time, and really found myself missing the contact with the patients and with the providers who are working with those patients on a daily basis. So when this job as head of voluntary service opened up, I jumped at that. And that's given me kind of the best of both worlds with that. So my job right now is we have 400 approximately volunteers who work at the VA, some of them on a very regular basis, some of them on a sporadic basis. And our job basically is to enhance the treatment experience of those veterans coming in. We provide excellent health care service. What our job as volunteers is to help alleviate some of that anxiety that you're going to have anytime you go into a doctor's office, to kind of be there to offer some of the creature comforts, a cup of coffee, directions, a friendly smile, a magazine, just to kind of help make that healthcare experience a little more warm, a little more friendly.
Christy, you mentioned when the halls used to be that military white, that institutional white, but it is a beautiful facility. The wood floors, or the veneer of the wood floors, the grand piano, as I mentioned, the paint on the walls is a very trendy color. It was a very warm feel when I walked through the building. And when we walked into the primary care, I ran into a friend who, again, wanted to sit down and tell me how wonderful the care was. He'd had an accident, fallen off his combine, and he'd come into the ER room a couple of weeks ago, and he gave me the doctor's name, and I didn't solicit it. He just wanted to share how good the people were. So I don't know why I'm so emotional during this interview. I guess because I was challenged by our guest, and I wanted to learn. And we shouldn't be surprised when we ask God to do something, and He does it. David said in the Psalms, I pray and I wait with expectation. Why don't we pray and wait for the answer, expect the answer? But to have it open up so beautifully within 4 hours when I meet Eric, and then he takes me in 2 days, 48 hours, and I walk through and meet you, of all people, the head of public affairs. And then, Bart, I'm so grateful you're here, because we're going to talk to our viewers. We're going to give a little challenge out. Our military folks have done so much for us. And I guess that's maybe why I'm so emotional. I didn't get to serve in the military. My hair looks fairly tame now, but we used to laugh. My hair would not even make it in the military. It would not follow orders enough to make it in the military. But for those who have, they have signed on the dotted line with their own blood that they would pay whatever price necessary to give us the freedoms that we enjoy in this nation, to give us the rights. And the rights don't come from government. The rights come from God. But see, people in China have the same rights that we do. They just don't get to observe them and enjoy them because their government hasn't protected them. We are blessed in this nation to have the government we have, the freedoms we have, and a voluntary military that is willing to fight for us to keep them. You hear the music. We've got to go to break. We'll be right back with Christy and Bart talking more about the VA here in Central Iowa and what we can do, but also we'll talk about some of the issues we've heard nationwide as well. Stay tuned on KTIA 99.3.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening to Truth for Our Time as we help you live God's Word in today's world. And you know what? Helping you find that area where you can be a blessing to somebody else. You know, we've done a lot of shows on on depressants and the fight for antidepressants and even post-traumatic stress syndrome, which I'm sure you deal with as well at the hospital. But, you know, a lot of times some of the shows we've done are how we can get through it without the big pharmaceutical drugs, because we know they have their own side effects, and what we can do to get ourselves through those down times. I think if we take our eyes off ourselves sometimes and look at how we can help somebody else, there's a great, tremendous blessing that comes through that. And so this show, one, we're going to talk about what the VA offers to the soldier, to the veteran, but we're also going to talk about what we can offer back, because I think, one, we need to, and I think we feel better when we do help others. So, Christy, let's go to you. What the VA offers to our soldiers and our veterans.
Absolutely. So as I described before, we have 5 CBOT clinics as well. But what I want to kind of get the message out to veterans that live in the central Iowa area, we serve 40 different counties, and that's for central Iowa as well as northern Missouri. And we really do serve a very wide variety population of veterans that have served all the way back to World War II to people that are still wearing boots today. And the eligibility requirements for the VA are quite large, and they're pretty comprehensive. And so it's really important that even if you haven't considered coming to the VA, or perhaps you weren't eligible before, you might be eligible now, whether or not it's by circumstance or because law has changed. And we have to follow those federally mandated laws to provide that care. But we really want to get the information out that we are a choice for veterans, and that we have a really dedicated team of health professionals that really love serving veterans and really love providing care to our nation's heroes. And so we just ask that for any veterans that are listening, you know, please consider us for care. Look us up. Come down to our main campus. Come through the eligibility requirements. We have an excellent patient advocates that go with our new patients to kind of introduce them to the facility and see what we have to offer. Because I think what veterans find when they come in is it's just not a point of care service. You really are taken in as a full person, and we really treat you in that way, where each time you come in, you're given that full assessment, you're given our full acknowledgement, and really kind of getting you aligned with everything you need at the same table. We believe in patient-centered care, and we really believe in putting the patient in the center and providing them with the many providers and different support staff for them to really get the full package of care that they need. So we just encourage them to come down and check us out.
The VA has suffered some headlines this year and some, bad publicity, I guess is the only way to say it. And our veterans are suffering, and none of us want to hear about that. But that doesn't mean that every VA hospital is not able to serve their patients. And so do you want to just answer that here in Iowa as how you think we're doing in Iowa? And like I said, I ran into 2 random soldiers, and they had nothing but praise.
We've seen a lot of that praise come through. We use different reporting mechanisms and surveys to make sure that we are really reaching out to our veterans and really getting that immediate feedback. And what I can say is that's the resounding effect that we get from that is praise and thankfulness. And that goes hand in hand with the fact that our staff feels the same way about the veteran. They really do come and feel joyful about doing that. I can talk about Central Iowa in this year and the growth that we've seen. We've had more veterans use our care. We've grown tremendously in our women's department. Because of that, then we were able to hire more excellent providers and expand our services. And just even this last year, speaking of women veterans, we're able to now offer mammography, and we have started offering a lot more imaging and different floors that we perhaps didn't in the past. And so as we continue to have more veterans come through the door, it's just a very wonderful cyclical thing that happens where more services are offered, and we have a terrific group of staff that just love coming in every day, and they're top-notch candidates that could work anywhere else, and they actively choose to work for our veterans, and that's how we view them. They're our veterans.
Which is only God can do. The day before I came to the hospital, I learned of a dermatologist who's voluntarily going to your VA hospital, leaving the private practice because they want to give back, they want to serve the vets. So, God just rearranged my whole week last week, and I've just had this wonderful learning experience about the VA. If someone wants to get a hold of the VA or want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
So we're down at 3600 30th Street in Des Moines, and that is where our main campus is. But you can look us up on Central Iowa. Just Google us, VA Central Iowa Healthcare. We have a wonderful website. We also are on Facebook, so look up Central Iowa VA as well. And then if you need directions or you want to call and get hooked up with someone, you can always call our main line, which is 515-699-5999. And then you can ask to speak to anyone, whether it be eligibility or perhaps voluntary services if you want to do that, or the chaplain or me, and they'll be able to patch you through. So just that one number and going on those few sites, you can get hooked up with information about all the services that we have and locations.
Very good. Christy, thank you so much. Thanks for just taking time out to say, can I help you that day?
Not a problem.
And thanks for coming here. So Bart, we've talked a little bit. The veterans, the 2 that I talked to randomly, had nothing but praise for your care. But even with all the great care, you need a little help. You need volunteers. There are things you can do to assist veterans even more.
To add that human touch.
So give a list. Challenge our listeners out there. To those of you who are listening, I know we're all busy. Mm-hmm. But I just can't imagine doing this would not feed back into your day and nurture your soul.
Oh, it certainly does. And I think one thing, any time a person crosses our threshold, especially if you're a patient, when you cross that threshold, you know that you have something in common with every other patient in that entire facility. Right. You have shared that experience. You have shared that commitment that you made, that signing on the dotted line that you had mentioned. And I think the other thing is, even if you're a family member, when you cross that threshold, you know that there is a common bond or a theme that runs throughout that entire facility and into the providers that Christy had mentioned. We're all there because we want to be and because we believe in the mission. As far as volunteering goes, we have a lot of folks that will come in and volunteer, and we will call them regular volunteers, but a regular volunteer regular is defined by them. It can be as little or as much time as they want to give. It can be several times a week on a regular basis. It can be once a month on a regular basis, depending on what they would like to do. You mentioned our grand piano. That piano sits there, and it is always looking for someone to come in and tickle its keys.
I love the sign.
So,
Players
yes,
always welcome.
Players are welcome. So if you are a pianist and would love to come in and just sit and spend a little bit of time, we would love to have you there. It adds a rich warmth, human, comforting feeling to that entire lobby when you walk in. There's something about music and just kind of reducing some of that anxiety in spheres that you may have.
And it might be a great chance for you to practice
Yes.
Everybody needs to keep that gift going.
Yes.
And imagine if somebody played some swing and going through some of those eras that the soldiers have
Yes.
served. What a blessing
Yes.
that would be. What an easy way for you to give back to your community.
It'd be pleasuring for you and for your listeners.
I wish now I would have practiced myself so I could play those
when you were
those
younger.
keys. But I know you need drivers as well. Explain
There is a driver program. It's called the Veteran Transportation Network, and it is designed to bring patients into the hospital from more of a rural area who cannot make that trip on their own. And so DAV has donated vans, GSA or the government vans are available, and we're always looking for volunteers in those communities who would be willing to take a day to run a veteran into the hospital, wait for them, and then return.
So you don't even have to use your own car.
No.
You just
Matter
have
of fact, we
to-
prefer you not use your own car. We would rather have you use our vehicles.
And then you become a certified driver.
And then you would go through our driver training program, and yes, and again, it's you do it as often as you want or as little as you want. So that would be up to you. Other things that we need are ambassadors, someone with a warm, friendly smile who can meet and greet people when they come through the front door. Do you need a wheelchair, sir, ma'am? Can I help get you pointed in the right direction? Do you need someone to escort you to your appointment? Do you know where you're going? But that warm, friendly smile when they first come through the door, and that's what the ambassador is. We have escorts then who push those wheelchairs around, who know their way around the facility, can get them to and from their different appointments. A lot of times a veteran will have more than one appointment, in the course of a day. So it's like, okay, now you need to go to radiology, and just like, well, where's that at? Well, they don't need to worry about that. The escort will take them to radiology.
Again, what an easy way to bless somebody.
It is. And, during the course of that time, they have the opportunity to be able to talk and visit with that veteran.
Oh, the stories
And
you would
the stories are incredible, absolutely incredible. And the older veterans love to tell them. So, and we're also looking for people to come in and just sit and visit with veterans who could sit and just come in and share. Our palliative hospice care program is always looking for volunteers, patients who are terminal and are looking for just a little bit of comfort towards the end of their life. And it goes along with the theme that no veteran will die alone. And in VA hospital, that is very true. None of our veterans will pass alone. And so we have a whole program where people come in, they'll sit and they'll read the newspaper with them, they'll pray with them, they will read the newspaper, watch a baseball game, whatever the veteran wants to do, or sometimes just sit and be with them so that they know there is another person in their presence.
I don't know why this show is so emotional for me, but wow, what a great opportunity.
It is.
I just can't think of a better cause. There are so many good causes we could do in Iowa. We are charitable people. Mm-hmm. We care about people. We're compassionate. But what a better way to give back to those who have done so much for us, those who have served in combat, those who maybe didn't go across the sea, but they were guarding things here at home. You're still away from your family when you go to your training camps, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months. Just the sacrifice is incredible. And what a great way for us to give back to that. So I'm going to challenge you, listeners, on an individual basis, what an easy way you could do the second Thursday of every month, or the Friday morning, first Friday morning of the month, whatever works for you.
Right.
It would make Bart's life a much easier to have a full slate. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you had to juggle to spread people out rather than try and put people in?
Yes.
So, and then I'm going to take our church groups out there. I don't know if it's youth, how old someone would need to be, but you've got different church groups. You've got women's clubs, Bible clubs, book clubs, small clubs, whatever it is, small groups. I'm challenging you, not just through the holidays while we're all thinking about it, absolutely see if they need help during the holidays. But next January, and I'm telling you now, so you can get it on that church calendar and the planning, be thinking next January, February, March, April, what can your group do? This is the role of the church. This is not the role of the government. This is the role of the church according to Romans. The government's only supposed to punish bad and uphold good. That's it. Everything else falls on us as Christians and as independent or individual citizens. So what a great opportunity for us. And when you call BART, do they call that 515-699-5999 number?
Yes, and they can ask for voluntary service.
515-699-5999.
And the other way that they can help is voluntary service is also responsible for accepting all donations to the hospital. And we do have a list of donation things that we need. And there are comfort items that we give above and beyond what you would normally get when you go into the hospital. And so we have a list there. And when you call that 699-5999 number, the lady who answers that phone will either be Shirley or Laura, and they can tell you what those needs are and those things that we particularly have a use for.
We are out of time, but thank you for listening in. Bart, Christy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you
Those
for the
of you
invitation.
listening, you've been challenged. Now, please call that phone number and tell them Tamara sent you. Join Tamara's team. We're going to make a team of volunteers and care for those who've cared for us. We'll be right back after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in with us. I hope that you enjoyed that last segment as much as I did. I'm telling you, I'm still wiping my eyes. I don't know what it is. Maybe because I never got the chance to serve in the military. I'm not cut from the military cloth. And for those of you who think we ought to have mandatory military in America, I couldn't disagree with you more. I just absolutely could not disagree with you more. Not everyone is cut out for it. We all have our gifts. And I think the beauty of what makes our military so strong, so honorable, is that it's voluntary and people want to serve. Would you want to be in the bunker next to somebody who didn't want to be there, who didn't have the mission at heart? I think of musicians that I know whose spirit would be broken on the battlefield and in basic training. It's not for everyone. And I think what makes us so absolutely special is the desire of men and women across this nation to step up. And if I thought I could have physically handled it, I would have done it in a heartbeat. Maybe. It's intimidating. It's scary. I don't know. I think that's why I honor those men and women so very, very much. As I said, God plans our day, and I just love what God is able to do. I just sent an email out just an hour before the show to Kirby Anderson. You may recognize that name. Kirby has been on radio for years with Point of View Ministries, and he's also with Probe Ministries, giving us apologetics, thinking through the very difficult situations. As I always say, we help you live God's Word in today's world. If He expects you to live through it, He's given you the way to do it. And so He's directed you how to do it. And Kirby Anderson has been one of those ministries, no matter what the topic, they have been able to break it down ethically, morally, biblically, and help us wade through some of these very difficult issues. But years ago, 3 studios ago, I interviewed Kirby Anderson, and we were talking about Islam, the Muslim faith. And I would tell you it's a Muslim military regime with a faith component. But Kirby warned us then of things we are seeing now. And so I just quickly emailed him and said, any chance you can come on? And bless his heart, he responded ever so quickly, and he's joining me right now. Please, thank you so much, Kirby Anderson, for joining us.
Good morning. How are we doing?
We are doing great, and I am so grateful to you, one, for just the wisdom that you have shared with us over the years on a variety of topics, but for jumping online with me and being able to talk today.
Sure. We're looking forward to it. You know, what's happened in Paris is a real concern because we see that could happen elsewhere, and you've seen what the FBI is saying, that as we come to these holiday seasons, we need to be prepared, and they don't know if they have all the resources. They don't know that even whether we've been able to vet these individuals significantly. So there are just a lot of questions, and certainly a real matter of prayer for those people in positions of authority right now.
And our governor in this state has now given his concern over the Syrian refugees. Iowa's always been a welcoming state. But as someone who takes the oath of office, their first oath is to protect the Constitution and the people therein. And so whether it's a state constitution or the U.S. Constitution, these governors and our president should be taking care or taking our life and liberty into consideration first and foremost. So, Kirby, years ago, you would come on and you would talk about what if only 10% of the Muslim population were violent. Can you take us through that scenario once again?
Sure, and we do have some numbers now because probably as we look, 10% is about right universally, but it's a very maybe a little bit of a high number in the United States. It's an extremely low number if you go to places like Pakistan or Afghanistan. Even with the ISIS issue right now, there are some that have been saying that if indeed there are ISIS people that are implanted or infiltrating with the various refugees, the estimates are maybe 2 in 100. Well, that's only 2%, but like I said, you can do the numbers. If you have 1.5 billion Muslims, and you say, well, 10% is the figure we'll use for just a minute, well, then you are talking about something on the order of, 150 million. And so it doesn't take long to see that is a problem. Or if you use the ISIS numbers and say, okay, we are going to bring over 10,000 refugees, and maybe 2% of those are indeed individuals that actually might intend us harm, you're talking about, again, hundreds. And so whether you use one number or the other, you can begin to see that we will all acknowledge that most Muslims, especially that we know in this country, are peace-loving. The fact that they even came to the United States in large part means they probably made their peace with the modern world. But at the same time, we have to recognize that some of those individuals actually intend us harm. And so that's why a vetting process is very important. And yet a vetting process, Tamara, is really difficult because these individuals in many cases are coming from failed states. It's not like you can call up somebody in Syria and say, well, is this a good guy or a bad guy? This person claims to be a Christian. Are they really a Christian? This one looks like he would like to simply work in some kind of industry, but does he have any links to various groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, Hamas? And so that's, of course, the challenge that we face when we talk about this humanitarian crisis of all these refugees that are streaming into Europe and the desire for this president to bring tens of thousands here to the United States.
And, of course, Kirby, we've had the incidents and the horrific tragedy of Paris this last week. And we see so many people on Facebook putting the blue, white, and red on their profile pictures, and that's great. And we certainly want to pray for them and carry their burden as a hurting people. But I have to ask, Kirby, there were things that France as a country could have done to prevent this. You and I were talking years ago about the no-go zones. They knew they had people there who did not want to assimilate, were not respecting the laws of the country. I think,
and that's the point. We were talking about this years ago, and now we've seen it. You've seen some of these also in England too, but certainly in France, there are places you can go where the French police do not go into those areas because essentially those are dominated by Sharia law, and where the birth rate in those areas is much higher than it is in other parts of France. And so eventually, as we've talked about before, you can look at Mark Stein's book, America Alone, or many other people that are recognizing that Europe is basically headed for a demographic winter. It's imploding. It's collapsing. And the one place where you're seeing very robust fertility rates are among the Muslim population. So whether you look at this infiltration and this mass migration, or whether you just look at the fertility rates, it's pretty reasonable to assume that eventually France will be Muslim. Now, they still maybe call it Paris, and you still may have the Louvre, and you still may have the Eiffel Tower, but right now the most common name in the European continent is Muhammad. And so it doesn't take long to figure out where that's going. And back to your point, these issues that France has been dealing with for many years surfaced, of course, with Charlie Hebdo, then with the attack on the train, and now, of course, the most recent attack there in Paris, and then also just yesterday, the attempt to try to round up a few more, and this one woman blew herself up. And, we're going to have a series of these play out over the next couple of months and years, and that's all because of an unwillingness to confront a group of individuals, all who were Muslim, who decided that they were not going to become French. They were simply going to live in France, but they were going to implement their own kind of Sharia law and ultimately created these no-go zones that we talked about years ago.
And so, what can America do to learn from this? I mean, we've talked about the no-go zones. We called it out. I think it was before 2006, Kirby, when we were talking about this. And I have an article I put on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page from 2011 talking about the 751 sensitive urban zones, or the no-go zones. But we see it here in America. We hear about Dearborn, Michigan. We hear about all these other... I've done shows about the stealth jihad, where people are coming into this country and being specifically located geographically who are Muslim. Now, this is something we have to deal with, and I've got to go to break here, so I'm going to go ahead and allow us to go to break. I'm going to ask you to handle that when we come back, Kirby. But we, as a nation, have some very serious answers as we have a presidential election coming up. We've got to tackle these things first, foremost, and head on, and it's not hateful to not want harm to come to your people. That is not hateful. So we'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned with Kirby Anderson from Point of View, the host.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time. We thank Webcast One Live Studios for partnering with us. We thank ChristiansForAmerica.com, ChristiansForAmerica.com, and we thank 99.3 FM. Thank you to those of you who are listening, whether on the way home from church on Sundays or perhaps as you're getting dinner ready for the family. We thank you for the comments that we're hearing. We try and give you great information that you can break down what's happening in your world around you and live God's Word in today's world. Kirby Anderson is my guest. You recognize that name. He's the host of Point of View radio show. He's also with probe.org, probeministries.org. Kirby, I just ask you a difficult question, and I certainly don't mean any criticism towards France. They are a hurting nation right now. But, and maybe you know better than I, do they have gun control in France?
Oh, yes. Now, again, let's mention the fact that the police there, they have the best kind of weapons, SAURs and all sorts of things, and they've got AKs and ARs and all sorts of things. But the reality is that level of gun control probably is a problem because, again, soft targets are easier to hit. But let me, for just a minute, because I know we're coming close on time here, just talk about what can be done and what is being done. And first of all, I'll give high praise to the FBI Director, James Comey. He's the one that really has come out and has said that we have levels of radicalization in all 50 states, and that includes the state of Iowa. And that means that they are really watching what is taking place there, and they're doing what they can to disrupt some of these individuals. You've also got, of course, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson said that there's about 1,000 different ISIS-related individuals that they've been following, and they've been able to disrupt some of them. The one just recently in Boston is a good example. So first of all, we have a government that is trying to do that, but I think they lack some of the resources that need to happen, and so that brings us to some of the personal things that we should do. And number one, that is we need to elect a new president, and we also probably need to elect people to the House and Senate that understand that this terrorist threat is something that is not under control. ISIS is not contained. ISIS is not a JV organization, and ISIS is perhaps the best funded, best armed terrorist group in the world. So to minimize those ideas and those realities with certain kind of rhetoric is very important. I think we also, as individuals, need to just be willing to talk about the threat that we really face. And when they had the Democratic debate the other night, Mike Huckabee sent out a tweet, and he said, now, you're all grown up now. You can do it. 3 words, 10 syllables. Say it with me. Radical Islamic terrorism. Radical Islamic terrorism. And when you could not get some of those candidates to actually say those words, that, I think, illustrates the point that I think we need to make. And certainly, we as individuals certainly need to be exercising our vote in this coming year. We need to talk about this issue effectively. And we also just, frankly, need to be the eyes and ears of our communities because, after all, the police can't do everything, but we now have stories about how the German police did pull over some of these jihadists. And so the death count the body count, which was horrible in Paris, would have been worse if it hadn't been for the German police that actually had stopped one of those individuals, actually a group of those individuals that were heading to Paris. So we need to support our local police. We need to vote effectively. And most importantly, I think we just need to talk about the fact that we do face a threat from radical Islamic terrorism, and we need to make sure that the people that are in office are really dedicated to saving us and protecting us. So those are just a couple of things that come off the top of my head of things that we can and should do. And let's again be in prayer for those individuals that are in Homeland Security and the FBI and our Defense Department. These are individuals that are protecting us, and we should be grateful for them. But we also need to have leaders that are willing to protect us and to take the battle to ISIS and other jihadist groups so that we don't have these kinds of incidents that happened in Paris happen here in the United States.
And, of course, next year is an election year, so do be paying attention. We've been paying quite a bit of attention here in Iowa, of course, to the presidential. But, as Kirby mentioned, your congressional members as well. You'll have many senators up. You'll have every House member up at the federal level. And then your state legislators. Your state legislators will determine what gun laws you have. Unfortunately, they don't understand the Second Amendment has already laid it out, and you should have no restrictions, in my opinion. So, all of this is what you need to be doing, you need to be paying attention to, and what you can do for your family. But as Kirby said, be paying attention to what's happening around you. Headlines. I would even say the term radical, these are devout Muslims. These are people who have read the book and know what it says. Unlike Gospel of Jesus and the Christianity, the better you read the book, the more you read the book, the better person you become. Die for yourself and loving others. But it's the opposite with the Quran. Would you say that's true, Kirby?
Oh, I certainly would. I've said this before, that the more literal you take, for example, the New Testament, the more likely you are to be peace-loving, turn the other cheek, love your enemies, all those kinds of phrases. But the more literal you take the Quran, for example, Surah 9:5, to go out there and to kill your enemies, and Surah 4:47, and some of these kinds of passages that call for jihad. And so, again, this is kind of the interesting irony, because the more literal I take the Bible, the more likely I am to be peace-loving and a good citizen. But the more literal I take the Quran, the more likely I am to be a jihadist. Now, there are a lot of moderate Muslims that will look at that and say, well, those verses applied in Muhammad's day, they don't apply today. But the more radical individuals, the radical Islamic terrorists, they come from a very literal interpretation of the Quran and believe that those passages written in the Quran in 1622, or 622, I should say, apply to us today in the 21st century.
Which is why we still see the clothing that appears to be dated, the same back in the 600s. So I guess I just love the God that I serve, that wants us to be the very best we can be, fulfilling the gifts that he has given us. The Bible is the first book where women had rights. They could inherit property. He honored them in the ministry. And look at the nations around. Those who have a Christian heritage, have a semblance, those versus who have a theocracy of Islam, you can see the freedom, and I think it speaks clearly for itself. Kirby, if someone wants to come in contact with you or find out more about your ministry, please give us the contact information.
Certainly. One of the things I know people are wondering about is, can we contact our representative right now and ask them to not fund this movement of migrants to the United States, the Syrian refugees? And so on our website, pointofview.net, we have a way, if you just put your address in, it will surface your name of your representative and then allow you to send a note to them. So we've made it very easy for you to learn more about this issue at pointofview.net. Of course, you also mentioned our website, probe.org, but pointofview.net would be a good place if you're really concerned about ISIS, concerned about the Syrian refugee issue. We've given you a chance to look at some of that information and then contact your representative.
Thank you so much. Kirby Anderson has been my guest today, pointofview.net, probe.org. Appreciate everything that you have done and continue to do to help us navigate in today's complicated waters. Thank you, Kirby.
Thank you.
For those of you listening, I hope that you've gotten some great information today. I hope you'll call the VA hospital at 599-6999 and see how you might volunteer and pay back those who have paid so much for our freedoms and liberties. And next week, Bill Feder will be joining us. We'll be talking about Thanksgiving. We'll be talking about our history, a little bit more about Islam and how it's woven through our history as a nation as well. Read the Mayflower Compact. Find a copy for your family this Thanksgiving as it comes up. But you've been given great information. Be encouraged and never be complacent.